Today we're going to be talking about Revelation, the Remnant so-called church, and First John, and what they have to do with one another, and how it's very important to the topic why Torah matters. Gonna let people hop in here while that happens. When, if you like, rather, to follow me on social media, I have an Instagram. It's Arthur Fantastic on IG, 1K instead of IC, holler. So you can holler at me on that's the best place to contact me. But obviously, down in the comments is also awesome. I talk about a lot of disparate topics if this is the first time you're watching me. But today, some of it's like wrestling based, but some of it is Bible based, and with a specific tone, or rather underlying method of following the Torah. Um, uh, if you want more of my uncensored, unbanned content, I would check it out on BitChute, bitchute.com/ArthurFantastic. Link in the description of this video when it is posted. That being all said, now that we got it out of the way, today we're going to be talking about the particular topic of what the Torah has to do with Revelation and First John and the Remnant Church, in fact. Now, there's we have to define what the church is, or what. How do you know a person who is a follower of Christ? You know what I mean? It's not nebulous. It's not vague. It's not this thing that I have to think about or reach out and figure out. No, there's church fathers, i.e., the apostles and their writings, as well as an entire Torah, the Tanakh, the Torah and the prophets, which Jesus, also called Yahushua, literally says, I'm not here to abolish the law, aka Torah, and the prophets, but to fulfill it. If fulfill is not abolish, then it cannot mean the same. Fulfill and abolish cannot be the same thing, right? Fulfill cannot mean abolish, because I'm not here to abolish, but to fulfill. So if you're not abolishing, ending, doing away with, how could you abolish, do away, or end it? It's very important that this concept of, oh, the Torah is done away with, be very harshly challenged in a time where anybody can say they're Christian and come up with crazy fucking Christian, quote unquote Christian, and say that they are, a spiritual leader, and start doing hubba 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 hubba. I sound like this, and saying, and getting crazy money and doing crazy things, and abusing and manipulating people, because there is no plumb line. And there is a plumb line according to the words of its own writers, and that is the Torah. Okay? Now, but I don't read the Torah, Arthur. I don't read the Old Testament. That's done away with. Fine. Let's go to John. First John. Now you wonder where that was coming in. First John 2. It's awesome. 1, 2, 3. It's easy to remember. First John chapter 2, verse 3. Now I'm first going to read that, but then I'm going to read the surrounding verses for context, and then we'll discuss, and then move on and connect it to Revelation. So first, let's just read the verse 3. By this we can be sure that we have come to know him, capital H, if we keep his commandments. What? Pretty fucking simple that a person who says they're Christian, I'm Christian, but is going on a mass murder, as I talked about in my last series, wolves in sheep's clothing. You can say that you're a Christian, but you're not following the commandments, not spilling, i.e., not spilling innocent blood. Okay, that's in there. Don't spill innocent blood. Not only is it in the Old Testament, it's in the New Testament. For those who are doubting the veracity of the Old Testament, which everything is built on in the New Testament. Okay, so let's go for a little bit more context. This is just literally the beginning of the letter, right? So it's like, my little children, I'm writing these things to you so that you will not sin, okay? What is sin, by the way? Check out the next chapter. First John chapter 3, verse 4. Sin is transgression of the law. Sin is breaking the law. FYI. Very easy. Like, these are nebulous things that we can't fucking get pinned down. What is bad? What is good? Okay, murder is bad, and thinking about murder is bad. Rape is bad, and thinking about rape is bad. Uh, Having sex with another person's wife is bad, and thinking about it is bad. What's so difficult to cannot connect there? Okay, but let's go on. Okay, because obviously it's important that we identify what these words mean. What is sin? Sin is breaking the law. Does that mean we break the sin now, today, because we're under grace? By no means. Read Romans. That's Paul speaking. Okay, we establish the law, is what he says. Okay, let me go on. But if anyone does sin, we have an advocate before the Father, Jesus Christ, the righteous one. He himself is the atoning sacrifice for our sins, and not only for ours, but also the sins of the whole world. By this we can be sure that we have come to know him if we keep his commandments. If anyone says, I know him, but does not keep the commandments, he is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But if anyone keeps his word, the love of God has been truly perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. Whoever claims to abide in him must walk as Jesus walked. How did Jesus walk? Sinless. What is sin? Breaking the law. Jesus walked a sinless path of following the law and not breaking it. Oh, but Arthur, he's arguing against the rabbinical Jews of the time who are following the Babylonian Talmud. Oh, well, that's because the Babylonian Talmud is not what the seed of Moses is portraying. Okay, that is not the Torah. The Talmud is what the dispersed Babylonian Jews who were in captivity created to, in a way, follow their God, but it was obviously perverse. It's not like how it's supposed to do it. There's an entire, if you read the Old Testament and the kings and the judges, it's over and over. They don't follow the laws and God judges them and they're like, oh, please, we repent, forgive us. God forgives them and they do it again. And each prophet is there to tell them that. Ezekiel, Isaiah, on and on, Daniel, like they're there to, every prophet is talking about repentance. All the way up to Jesus. John the Baptist, they're talking about repentance. This is not a new thing, okay? Because the Bible itself says you cannot add or subtract to it, and that if we want to go to Deuteronomy 13 just real quick, so that I can give you a complete understanding, right? All right. If a prophet, Deuteronomy 13, if a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and proclaims a sign or wonder to you, and if the sign or wonder he has spoken to you comes about, but he says, let us follow other gods, which you have not known, and let us worship them, you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. For the Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. This is Deuteronomy. Love you with all your heart, all your soul. You mean one of the most important commandments according to Jesus Christ himself, Yahushua? Okay. Keep his commandments. You are to follow the Lord, your God, and fear him. Keep his commandments and listen to his voice. Serve him and hold fast to him. Like, every time I'm going to read something, it's going to say, keep his commandments. And that is something that for some reason in modern Christianity, people will say, you're a Judaizer. I'm saying salvation by grace through faith in Jesus Christ. How do we know that you have faith in Jesus Christ? By following the commandments. That's John speaking. I'm not speaking it. I'm not making it up. Oh, but we're talking about the 10 Commandments. No, we're not talking about the 10 Commandments. Because here, where in Deuteronomy, he says, keep his commandments and listen to his voice. Is in Deuteronomy, is it talking about the 10 Commandments that happened an entire book ago in Exodus? No, that's not what he's talking about. Okay? The law that God himself spoke to Moses, which he wrote down, wasn't this, oh, we're going to progress over time and change it. I thought God doesn't change. Why would it change? There's nothing to change. We all agree on 100% of the law. Don't rape. Don't commit incest. You think that government came up with that? You think that government came up with rape is a fucking against the law? No, that's against God's law. God said that. That's why it makes sense. That's why we all agree. And now we're going to pick and choose now? Why do we get to pick and choose? Isn't that exactly what it says not to do? Exactly right here. Don't go after other gods. Such a prophet or dreamer must be put to death because he has advocated rebellion against the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you from the house of slavery. He has turned you from the way in which the Lord your God has commanded you to walk. We're talking about walking in commands. You must purge the evil from among you. That's why in Acts, Stephen is falsely witnessed against. Falsely witness. There's a false witness against Stephen in Acts. There's not a witness, it's a false witness. Okay, that's why he gets stoned. And all these people believe them because that would be the right thing to do if those two witnesses were fucking true, but they're not because there's highlight false witnesses. Just like people falsely witness against Yahushua, which is one of the things that God in the Old Testament says, don't do that. I hate that. I censor myself there. Okay, so we're jumping around in the word here, but it's important to, like, every time I'm going to jump around, it's going to say, keep his commandments. Now, if we are first identifying who is actually a brother and sister in Christ, and how to identify yourself internally as a follower of Jesus Christ, Yahushua, and that there is a way to actually purge and keep your ranks a certain way. Even here, they're talking about doing it, which, of course, for some reason we've thrown away because of one misinterpretation of what Jesus said. Because Jesus, once again, cannot add or subtract from the law because he is God and God doesn't change. Why the fuck would we not stone rapists? Why would we not stone adulterers? Why would we not stone, prophets who would have you go against another god? Yeah, of course. But we don't do it now because we're in the diaspora in Babylon. But if you want to keep God's laws, it's going to be fucking hard. And it means everybody lifting up their own hands to do something. Not saying that we should do violence, YouTube. Violence. I'm not saying, I'm just advocating for a law system. If you don't believe it, if you don't believe God, what God said that he wrote, which resulted in the prophets and the prophecies, which resulted in Jesus Christ's life, which is literally God coming down to earth and then saying, hey, you're doing it wrong. This is how you do it. And then literally they take the word, the W, capital W, the only word to exist at that time was what? The Torah. So the word made flesh is Jesus Christ. So the Torah, he's the living Torah. You're saying that the Torah was literally nailed to a cross? Yes. So in that way, the law was nailed to a cross, in that the very people that were there to have the clarification of God himself telling you how to actually love him. If you love me, keep my commandments. They nailed him to a cross, and he came back to life, and people still don't want to even believe him. With witnesses more than that of other people, and people outside of the Christian community, including historians and other first-person witness accounts from the first century, okay, more than for the existence of Buddha and Plato and Socrates combined, okay, this is an evidence-based faith, by the way. Then if that is true and you have a document that says how to conduct yourself, why do you reject it? Because this rejecting the Torah is believing the false witnesses. It's believing the false witnesses that are saying, oh, this guy's actually teaching that the Torah changed and he's adding and subtracting to the law and he's a prophet that is telling us to go toward another God. Everybody knows if there's a prophet that is supposedly telling him to go toward another God, that you stone them to death. Okay? So these false witnesses highlight false, not just witnesses, are the reason why these prophets are put to death. Okay? All right? So, why aren't we following it? Why are we adding to it? Okay? People get mad and conflate Talmud and Torah all the time, and I'm not advocating for the Talmud. I'm not advocating for a Babylonian Talmud, okay? Rabbinical tradition. That those are the descendants of the Pharisees. Fact check that. Learned something new today. So, all right, we've got proof what we're talking about in terms of commandments. We're talking the from back to front of the book. It's talking about keep His commandments, and so how does that connect to Revelation? Well, if you go to Revelation 12:17, it reads, "So the dragon was enraged with the woman, and went off to make war with the rest of her children, who keep the commandments of God and hold the testimony of Jesus, Yahushua." Okay, what does that mean? First, let's have a second witness to this account. Revelation 14:12, 2 chapters ahead. "Here is the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God and their faith in Jesus." It could not be more clear of what a believer looks like and what they're supposed to do despite being sinners and needing to repent. That's why we need Jesus Christ. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, well, there you go. You found out why you need Jesus Christ. That's exactly the point. Oh, because it's hard, we're not going to do it. Because we can't make it, we're not going to try. Because there's a standard of righteousness that may be difficult to achieve, then it's just going to be hard. That means I have to take accountability for how society is completely fucking falling apart, and there's fucking all this crazy shit going. Yes. Oh, that's true. That's all true, and it's a sobering moment. Oh, I want to be at odds with a large portion of Christian apologetics. Heck, no, dude. There's so many Christian apologetics people that are doing such amazing work on YouTube and social media. But this is why this is the missing portion. Check out my video, Error of Lawlessness, okay? Error of Lawlessness. How the Antichrist is the lawless one. Lawless. That's without the law. Jesus, Yahushua himself says, not everyone who calls out Lord, Lord will enter the kingdom of my Father. And they'll say, didn't I do miracles? Didn't I cast out demons in your name? And he'll say, get away from me. I do not know you, you doers of lawlessness. Lawless, without the law. To preach that the law is something that Jesus is Jesus is asserting, is to agree with the false witnesses against him. Like, oh, you mean there wouldn't be the problem of adultery if we enforced the law? You mean there wouldn't be a problem of rape if we enforced the law? You mean there wouldn't be a problem, and that problem would be minuscule because people wouldn't go 6 years to jail and then get out because they have a cough during a quote-unquote pandemic? They won't move across the street from children. They won't be able to set up entire cities here in Florida called Miracle Village because they wouldn't exist if you had two witnesses. But we live in diaspora. We don't know everybody. There isn't a community. There isn't that put togetherness that we know everybody around us. And even if we did, like, we would be able to do, like, take care of our own or whatever the heck. As if there's that many people that would actually believe that and be willing to, like, shake the boat. When things collapse, it'll be easier for people to accept. But at the time, it's like, fancy pants and lollipops are like around every corner. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoop-de-doo. There's all this like, oh, like we're not free and this, that, the other thing. And there's like a level of serious truth to it. But it's cartoonish and satire when you're talking about things that don't even affect you from 100 years ago and blah, blah, this specter of whatever the heck. In reality, we're all debt slaves, and we're not allowed to think or say what we think. I'm banned on Facebook. That's why I'm on YouTube right now. You can't talk about the things that you want to talk about, and like as long as I have a platform to do it, I'm going to do it. I have a strike on this channel, so if you want to see my more serious, yeah, it gets more serious than this, um, uh, perspectives and opinions, check me out once again on bitchute.com/arthurfantastic. Okay, so bringing it back to what we were talking about, the Remnant Church, Revelation, First John, all those highlight one thing, and that is that the people who are people who know him or of him follow his commandments, and that the Remnant Church follows his commandments and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, which is keep his commandments if you love me. It's like, oh, we just keep the 10. Well, there in the law it says don't do incest. Do we agree? Don't do incest. In the law it says don't rape. Don't we agree that there are portions that we can't observe because there isn't a temple or a Levitical priesthood? Okay, so what? Does that mean you don't try to observe what you can? That's the whole point, is to try to show that you love him. That's, if you love me, you will keep my commandments and you'll do what you can. Why, like just the least, he who keeps the least of my commandments will be called great in the kingdom. He who does not keep the least of my commandments will be called the least in my kingdom. The least of my commandments. That's more than just the 10. He's talking about the least of my commandments of the Torah, which is understood by the Hebraic community. More than just the Jews, because there's different types of Jews, because the whole Torah is the whole basis of the faith. It's everything. It's the ways that we're supposed to walk. People will say, "Oh, well, that's a yoke, and this, that, the other thing. That's a burden." First off, let's talk about what the Word calls it, what David in Psalms calls it. Psalm 119. Psalm 119 is the longest psalm. And I would love for you to go and just read Psalm 119. Just take that time to read Psalm 119, because Psalm 119 is pretty explicit in what I'm talking about here. And I could never be as eloquent or as amazing as the literal word itself that's been God breathed through man into paper right here. I will read a portion, but I just would like you to just read Psalm 119. Psalm 119:45. I will walk in freedom, for I have sought out your precepts. And it's so awesome, because it goes like, if you read the Berean, if you read the Berean Bible here, and you scroll through, you'll see that they actually have it the Hebrew, and each verse is like kind of like wrapped around one letter, and it'll help you understand conceptual Hebraic lettering. But beyond that, it's pretty like, blessed are those whose way is blameless. How do you be blameless? Who walk in the law of the Lord. This is just Psalm 119:1. Who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are those who keep his testimonies. Whose testimonies? Jesus' testimonies? Jesus is mentioned in Psalm 119. And seek him with all your heart. Seek what? The law of the Lord, so that you can walk that way, whose way is blameless. They do no iniquity. What is iniquity? That is the same word that Jesus uses to get away from the doers of iniquity, doers of lawlessness. They do no iniquity, lawlessness. They walk in his ways. The way, his ways, whose ways? Jesus? Is Jesus already here in 1:19? You have ordained your precepts, which I just talked about in 45, and that we should keep them diligently. Oh, that's my ways. We're committed to keeping your statutes. Then I would not be ashamed when I consider all of your commandments. Listen, everyone. There's only one person who sets what's right and wrong in the entire universe, reality, from top to bottom, and that is our Heavenly Father, Yah, God, Lord. I call him Yah. I don't like to say the other words, but you can say what you want. Him. He sets all right and wrong. You think the government came up with what's right and wrong for you to be able to protect yourself? For you to execute murderers and rapists? Not this Babylonian system that does some crazy-ish, no witnesses, evidence presented not 3 months down the line, but right then and there because you caught them, because you know everyone. And if something crazy happens, you know who's there. And if a stranger's around, you know that person who like, oh, keep an eye on that. Because communities are supposed to be neighbors and taking care of everybody, but we can't do that here because that's not the way that we're even allowed to in this lifestyle. It's insane. We don't even own the ground underneath us. Reality strikes when you read Revelation. It says, "Come out of Babylon, my people." It doesn't say fight for Babylon and figure it out and just try to amend it and just come out of Babylon. Come out of Babylon. It doesn't say, "Hey, go wage war for me, guys." It doesn't say, "Hey, go kill innocents and do this and acquire land, acquire wealth," and this. It doesn't say any of those things. It's a complete, from top to bottom, moral and ethical instruction breathed by God Himself, with witnesses and people going through it and experiencing the curse of the law and the blessing of the law and what is actually why you should keep the law, because you show love to God and God shows love to you. Don't show love to God, then He's not going to force His love on you. That's stalker stuff. People are like, oh, if I die, I'll go to heaven. It's all right. It's like, no, you don't get to choose where you go to heaven. Oh, so God sends me to hell. No, you send yourself to hell. Well, I'll just choose to go to heaven. Well, what do you mean? Well, if I choose, then I choose myself to go to myself to heaven. No, that's not how it works. Okay? Because if you love someone, right, you'll be around them. You'll do what's considerate towards them, what they consider is love, not what you consider or somebody else consider, what they consider is love. If God has a certain way, and if you don't want to follow it, people who are like, oh, I'm just gonna decide not to go to hell, these atheists, pagans, or whatever the heck it is, witches, you don't get to choose where you go. You made the choice with your actions through your life by not having faith in the right one. Because there is a right way. We all know it. People think that, we came up with it, or it's incomplete. The Torah is incomplete. No, it's all there. Don't enslave people. Don't kidnap people. Don't rape them. Don't have incest from top to bottom. All these, it lays it out what relations are not allowed. If someone steals from you, they have to repay it and then some. Come on, guys. That's just, of course, that's just. And so on and so forth, if you want to look it up yourself. But it's way more simple than the million laws in the books and how, serial murders will get away. You know what I'm saying? That's not how that works. That shouldn't be able to do. But if you're in a diaspora and you don't know anyone around you and you're working for boxes, living in a box so that you can pay with your little plastic square that for little other boxes, and so you go to a little box where they pay you in little squares so that you can continue the little box culture. No, that's not how that's going to work. Of course, it's that's directly at odds with the Torah. I'm sorry. God wants you to live. God doesn't want you to be a slave to the system of the beast. Life isn't capitalism with no by biblical grounding. Capitalism with no biblical grounding in morals and ethics is just plain greed. There needs to be an ethical base and grounding to this, but we've taken that out of everything. Oh well, I mean, I don't want to force my on your, and then that becomes, well, I want to be able to do fucking Satan prayers in public in front of your children and write books about them and how they pee and how come pee with me. That's what's going on. But you can't fight that if you're insisting on the box culture that makes boxes and then sells you boxes, and people who have their stores that don't make such big boxes, yeah, they close down. But the big box stores, we bail them out and we make them make more boxes with and boxes. And oh, dude, those things, they're big, but we can box them now because only us gets the squares for the boxes. Okay, all right, that's going real way overboard. But you understand the whole analogy. I hope that this is a contrived capitalist culture. Nothing wrong with capitalism with base ethical morals in the Bible. There is a problem with fucking greed and manipulating people and squeezing every little ounce of fucking soul that they have in their lives so that when they retire they're just basically on this slow drift into death, and taking all their vivacious years where they could have lived and done and spent time. No, I had to spend it in the box culture doing boxes because I needed to live in that box. Okay. Well, of course, that's going to be a difficult swallow for a lot of people, isn't it? It's unfortunate, but that is what it is. That is what it is. Oh, can you check on your just how that stream is actually looking and if it's even sounding okay, by the way? Okay, so all that out of the way, there is a significant disconnect in what the apostles who are keeping the law. It was like, oh, we don't get circumcisions. We don't get circumcisions. Chapters later, fucking Paul is telling Timothy to get circumcised. What do you mean? The guy that you're saying that is against circumcision is telling Timothy to get, and Titus also, to get circumcised? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? No, it's just salvation. You don't get salvation from circumcision. You don't have to have circumcision to be saved. It's just circumcising your heart to God. It's like you don't, it's not that we stop that. That's an everlasting covenant sign of it. You don't just stop doing it. Gosh, like Jesus was circumcised. You realize, right? You realize that Paul was circumcised and that he's having people circumcised right after that. People are like, oh no, we're just not eat food sacrificed and strangled and this and then the following verse is like, because Moses is taught in every synagogue every Sabbath since time immemorial. Moses. You mean the Mosaic law? You mean just God's law? You mean law, the law? You mean the Torah? Yes, that's exactly what it is. And people are missing, Paul is not following the law. No, that's what the false witnesses are saying. Literally Acts 20 or 21. Oh, let's find it right here. Let's go to it. Let me not be in undetailed. Let me be depth. X, is that X 21 or is that okay? Yes, Acts 21. Okay. This is Acts 21:17. When we arrived in Jerusalem, the brothers welcomed us joyfully. The next day, Paul went in with us to see James, and all the elders were present. Paul greeted them and recounted one by one the things that God had done amongst the Gentiles through his ministry. When they said this, they glorified God. Then they said to Paul, you see, brother, how many thousands of Jews have believed, and all of them are zealous for the law. Once again, all of them are zealous for the law, but they are under the impression that you teach all the Jews who live among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, telling them not to circumcise their children or observe their customs. What then should we do? They will certainly hear that you have come. Therefore, do what we advise you. there are 4 men with us who have taken a vow. Take these men, purify yourself along with them, and pay their expenses so they can have their heads shaved. Then everyone will know that there is no truth to the rumors about you, but that you live in obedience to the law. As for the Gentile believers, we have written to them our decision that they must abstain from food sacrificed to idols, from blood, from the meat of strangled animals, and from sexual immorality. Okay. What version is this? BSB. Where's the? Okay. So first off, before I find this next part, which I have to scroll through, uh, maybe then they will know that you live in obedience to the law. Clear as crystal, clear as day. Couldn't explain it any more in depth. Is it not there? Is it not clear? Is it not? Do you not understand? Is it not clear? Okay. Then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself with them, entered the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification until that offering should be offered for every one of them. Okay, so just following through, he did that. By the way, they advised it, and then he did it. Okay, so let's go here, and there's got to be a cross reference somewhere. Okay. Okay, there we go. Acts. Okay. Oh, it's Acts 15. Let's go to the full chapter. Sorry, y'all, for the time delay here. Okay. Instead, we should write and tell them to. Okay, once again, Acts 15, Acts 21:25 was referencing Acts 15:20. Okay. Instead, we should write and tell them to abstain from food polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from the meat of strangled animals, and from blood. Right? Exactly the same thing. For Moses has been proclaimed in every city from ancient times and is read in the synagogue on every Sabbath. Who? Moses. What's Moses? The law. What's the law? This Torah. That's why Torah matters, everybody. If you haven't got it yet, he who keeps the commandments is the law. The law is the entire first 5 books. It's a entire not completely complete that is fulfilled in Jesus, which means fully preached, which is necessary because God had to literally come down and tell people how to follow him because they couldn't even read the book that they supposedly love so much. Okay? That is the problem. And it's of course the problem that we're going to have today, because that's what believers have had since the beginning, since before Jesus, since before Ezekiel, since before Isaiah, all the way back to the desert, the wilderness. That's the whole problem. Of course they can't follow it. That's why you need Jesus. That's the whole point. And what does Jesus say? If you love me, keep my commandments. He who does not keep the least of my commandments will be called the least in my kingdom. You have an advocate, but how do we know you're from him? Oh, by keeping his commandments. People will say, oh, Paul didn't follow the commandment. Did we just not establish that he followed the law? And that also in Acts 15, we just don't drink blood and strangle them. No, because Moses is taught in the synagogue every Sabbath since ancient times. Why is this connect to what is ancient times connect to the future of Revelation? Because God has told the story from the beginning. He has told it the end from the beginning. He's known it from the beginning to the end from ancient times. This is how it's supposed to be done. This is people should know. Oh, but we're not doing it anymore because it's hard, or we don't understand, or we throw it away, or we think this, or some dogma, this, that, the other thing. There's some shit that we can't do. Excuse my language. There's some stuff that we can't do, right? Obviously, because we don't have a Levitical priesthood, we don't have, and obviously there are a lot of people once again conflate the Torah with the Talmud and think, oh well, I'm supposed to do my hair or wear a thing or this, that, the other thing, and there's certain cloths. It's like you have to do tzitzits, and then some denominations of Judaism will say, well, we have to wear the specific cloths with the tzitzits, which are fringes, and you know fringes, which is like just the place where the woman touched the fringes of Jesus' clothes and she was healed. You know what I mean? Why are these things mentioned? It's like God told the same story over and over again and you're not getting it. And that in the future, the remnant church will be he who keeps the commandments and has the testimony of Jesus Christ. And we know who Jesus follows Jesus Christ, those who keep his commandments. And that we're supposed to be wary of those who try to tell us not to keep the commandments. And I cannot harp on this enough. But I think I have for this video. My wife, what are your thoughts? Am I missing anything from this topic that I need to drop on the truth here? Okay, all right. Well, I trust you on that one. I think have I gotten any circles? Have I gotten any circles? I think this was a good live that I did today. With that all being said, I hope that you read Psalm 119 and take it seriously as written by the man who was after God's own heart, and that you take that the foundational documents and principles of our faith seriously, as not like there's a different God in the Old Testament and there's a new God. God doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And if he doesn't change and our like theology is he changed, then there's a disconnect from what is actually being said, and we have to understand these things. Check out my other videos on my page: Era of Lawlessness, Sheep in Wolves Clothing, and My Problem with So-Called Christianity. And if you go on BitChute, I have way more spicy videos for you to check out there. So if you want that extra spice, definitely go to BitChute. I want to thank you for tuning in, for watching, for sticking all the way through this, and we appreciate the support that y'all give. And I hope to go live again soon. Maybe I'll make this a normal thing, which I will shave for and look nicer, I guess, at some point for like a little scruffy. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Stay up, stay blessed, stay vigilant, stay locked and loaded. Shalom, shalom, peace, and Yah bless. Keep y'all Baruch. Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Okay.